Hello everybody, thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and also do check out the description below. Eleanor of Castile married Prince Edward, son of Henry III of England, when she was barely into her teens. Eleanor herself was the daughter of the King of Castile, Ferdinand III. Her marriage to Edward would prove to be a long and successful one, and Edward would become very fond of her. In the early 1270s, Eleanor accompanied her husband on crusade. It was during the Ninth Crusade that Edward nearly died. An assassin made his way into the prince's tent and attacked Edward with a poisoned dagger. Edward managed to fight off his foe, but he was seriously wounded. A famous story states that it was here that Eleanor saved her husband by sucking the poison out of his wound. This is extremely unlikely. It's far more probable that Edward was saved by the swift actions of his doctors. However, what the legend does indicate is that Edward and Eleanor's relationship was a loving one, and on seeing Edward suffering, Eleanor despaired greatly. As we know, Edward survived the attack, and in November 1272, whilst he was still abroad with his wife, he got word of Henry III's death. He was now King Edward I. However, he and Eleanor were in no hurry to return home, and in fact, they did not set foot in England until 1274. The coronation didn't take place until 3 months shy of the second anniversary of Edward's succession. This was a very peculiar situation indeed. Edward and Eleanor were largely inseparable. She accompanied him on his many campaigns against the Welsh, and their son Edward was born at Carnarvon Castle in 1284. This was the future Edward II. And to give you a further indication of the type of relationship they shared, stories are told of Edward playing games and tricks with Eleanor's ladies-in-waiting in order for him to be able to go and see her. And Eleanor reciprocated her affection by sending the king musicians to play for him. Their relationship was unquestionably a loving and affectionate one. However, not everybody was as fond of Eleanor as Edward I. She became unpopular in some quarters, with her acquiring lands that some thought had been extorted from Christians by Jewish moneylenders. As a result, her reputation suffered a little. However, this is purely due to the rabid anti-Semitism that was rife in medieval Europe, and Eleanor's actions were not particularly unusual. Edward I was also known to be a king capable of real brutality when stamping his own authority over his and neighbouring territories. Some believe this was actively encouraged by Eleanor herself, but again, this is wholly unfair. Edward was very much his own man. Eleanor died in 1290, possibly of a fever. She had served her husband nobly, journeying with him far and wide, from the Holy Land to Wales, to southern France, and all throughout England. Her loyalty to Edward was not in question. Her death came as a bitter blow to Edward. She had died near Lincoln, and on the procession back to London, he famously ordered the Eleanor crosses to be erected, 3 of which can still be seen today. Like many of the medieval queen consorts that had gone before her and would come after her, Eleanor has largely been forgotten. But the mark she left on her warrior king husband should always be remembered, and her tomb can be seen at Westminster Abbey.